I'm going to take you along and show you what I do to start hundreds of seeds and become my own nursery. So the first thing I do is I'm going to take my potting mix. This is actually just a bagged version from Fox Farms. This is called Coco Loco, and I'm going to get it a little bit wet and start mixing it in. One of the probably the hardest part about soil blocking is just making sure you get the moisture correct, which is why I am not wearing gloves, because it's just a lot easier to feel. But the reason I like the Coco Loco bagged mix is that it uses coconut coir instead of peat. So a lot of the box store and even organic gardening mix situations, what they rely on is peat, which is a non-renewable resource, whereas we have this alternative, which is coconut coir. And with all of the coconut milk, etc., that's being produced across the world, this is something that's just going to waste unless we can use it, and it works great here in this seed starting mix. So that's what I'm using. You can actually do a DIY version, which I am blanking on the ingredients. Here it is on page 94. Equal parts coco coir, compost, and fine screened vermiculite or perlite. So one of the things that I love about this book that I actually wrote is that there's a lot of things that I just can't remember off the top of my head. What's the spacing on this particular plant? So now I put it all in one place. So all of my chores that I need to do are, in this book. Everything that we need to remember to do every season. One year I just totally forgot to plant onions. Who forgets to plant onions? Everything you need to do step by step is in this book for each season, for growing as much food as you can for your family in the space that you're allotted, right? That's why it's called Grow Where You're Planted. That's the whole idea of this channel, is that whatever space you have, wherever God has put you, there is something that you can do to really steward that space and to be a good caretaker of what God has given to you. Oh my gosh, that's better. Try not to add too much water at a time, because then you have to go back and add more of the soil mix, and that can be kind of harder to do than just adding a little bit more water gradually. All right, and then once you get it to the point where you can kind of see the liquid is coming out of my hand, that's when it's ready. I'm gonna take my soil blocker, push it down, and then what I really like to do, because I like to make sure I have a firm block, is I push it from this side so there's no gaps, no air pockets. Just really like that squished down there a little bit. Push it in. Okay, then I need some more over here. And then take it over to my tray. Boom. So what are the reasons you would choose soil blocking over just putting things in pots and then potting them up as you go? Soil blocks are incredible because once you invest in the tool, which is about $20 to $35. I've seen various price points. And it depends how many, how large of a tool. You could get one that's double wide of this. So you could do 8 at a time if you wanted to. But once you invest in that tool plus a few of these nursery trays, depending on how much space you want to dedicate to, how many plants you want to start at a time, one of these standard nursery trays holds about 48 starts. So that's a lot of plants to start in a very small area. Soil blocking isn't just good for your wallet, it's good for the plants as well. Because when the plant is developing its roots, it's not going to get root bound in the pot. So a disadvantage, or a con, you could say, is that you might start your seeds and your plants they outgrow the soil that they're in. They get too big and you have to pot them up. I'm not sure that plants getting too big is really a problem, at least not in my book. Once you invest in the initial tools and are ready to hit the ground running as soon as spring begins, and then of course, aside from not having to invest, clean, store these pots every single season, if you want to cut down on the budget that you're spending on your garden, you can not have to continue to buy plants. You can actually become your own nursery, which is the idea. So one of the pitfalls to look out for with soil blocks is you want to make sure that you're watering from the bottom. So you don't want to come in and take something like this and, oh my gosh, erosion. No, we don't want to water from the top. And what you want to do is just you make sure that you get something that's a little bit smaller. You just water from the bottom, and ideally make sure that the water is traveling through to reach all of the bottoms of all your plants, and the soil will just, if it's dry, will just soak that water up. Anyway, there's a ton of things I love about this book. It's really beautiful. It's organized by season. There's lots of tips out there called Little Hands in the Dirt for growing little gardeners. There's great charts